welcome to the Cryptonaut podcast. My name is Mark Doors, and I am here hanging out with Robert Thomas Morphy II.
You better believe it.
What's happening, buddy?
All good things.
Dude, we are here. This is the Varginha incident part 5. Part 4.
That's right.
The reason I said part 5 is because we thought it was going to be a 4-parter, but guess what? Spoiler alerts. We're going for the big 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The
Cinco.
big 5.
That's right, baby.
We're doing it.
Varginha does what Varginha wants. I can't tell Varginha how long it has to be.
Now, this is not Mothman territory yet.
It's close.
We're creeping.
Mothman made 6, but I can almost guarantee it's going to be 5.
I want you to go back and listen to last week's podcast.
Where I was 100% positive it was over.
No, bro, 4, bro, 4.
I don't remember saying bro quite that much, but yeah, I'm sure I did.
Did you go full Zach Baggins on me?
God.
Or Bagans? I can never say his name right. Is it Baggins or Bagans?
Like I'd know. But the thing about this is that as I'm writing these things, I'm just writing them and I'm going by my notes. And like I told you, I had like 30 plus pages of handwritten notes based on all the documentaries and the books and whatnot. And so, I had a really good idea that I could condense it, but I got to tell the story the way I tell a story. So Uncle Rob can do Varginha in no less than 5 parts. And that has been proven by this 4th part not being the end.
So next week when you're like, all right, kids, we're going to part 6.
It can't happen. Unless there's a huge development in the case that I stumble across, no.
It'll be fine. We're gonna block all of your Google searches for James Fox in case he all of a sudden drops. Our luck, something's gonna happen.
Oh God.
They're gonna be like, oh, guess what?
Oh, they found its skull. Part 6, the skulling.
Oh man, and thank you all so very much for joining us. And we are the Cryptonaut podcast. I don't know why I forgot to mention that earlier.
They probably knew they were here.
Yeah, they did. All right, folks, so here we go. The Varginha Incident Part 4, Convoys and Corpses.
Get your CB handles ready, fuckers.
Man, all you truckers out there, get your shit ready. Here we go. We are getting starting with a warning from NORAD regarding an incoming unidentified object on January 13th, 1996. The Brazilian city of Varginha would host what would prove to be one of the most fascinating, frightening, and frenzied episodes in the history of ufology. One that involved deadly aliens, a panicked populace, and an anxious army tasked with transporting the fetid fiends.
They're stinky.
Oh, them stinky little aliens.
Stinky little buggers.
Their bodies are in transport. Robert, we are doing it. Convoys and Corpses. Let's do this.
Hell yes. As the scorching dog days of summer dragged on, the citizens of Varginha were plagued by an array of phenomenon that seemed to have been culled from a pulp sci-fi novel based loosely on the Roswell incident. The events in question began when a cigar-shaped UFO crashed on private farmland, leaving a circular chemical burn, a wide swath of debris, and most notably, a group of survivors. These small beings, though humanoid in form, were anything but. Like the ubiquitous greys, they had large heads, spindly limbs, and thin bodies, but that's where the similarities end, as the Varginha entities were also described as having a reddish, ruddy brown epidermis covered in a greasy sheen, round, not almond-shaped, red eyes, rather than black eyes, typical of greys, razor-sharp claws, and 3 horn-like lobes on their skulls. Their arms were also described as being simian-like in that they were much longer than their legs, which, despite their tiny size, could propel the creatures with uncanny alacrity, which sort of reminds me of the yellow what's-it?
Yeah.
That little yellow dirty thing with the long arms and the little stumpy ET legs running around fast. I don't think it's stumpy-ass ET legs, the Varginha characters. I think they have much longer legs than that, just not as long as their arms, evidently.
Yeah, just using that low center of gravity to get yourself moving. Just kind of get your little alien, like alien shuffle.
Alien shuffle.
Yeah, I like it.
Evidently, these beings made their way from the densely wooded outskirts of Varginha into the city proper. We can only speculate as to what their agenda was in doing so. Were they perhaps a dedicated military unit who, despite being wounded in a terrible crash, were fulfilling their mission to scout out the habitat of a potential enemy? Were they looking for supplies to repair the remains of their already confiscated ship? Was this just the tip of an invasion force that never came to fruition for reasons unknown? Or are we dealing simply with a group of injured crash victims in search of medical assistance? Whatever their reasons for heading into the heavily populated area may have been, the Brazilian military moved swiftly to swoop in and sweep the creatures up before the sticky situation, ignited an international or perhaps even intergalactic episode. Can't have intergalactic episodes, dude.
No, there's too much.
Not on my watch.
Too much going on in 96.
As the streets of Varginha were besieged by military forces scouring the area in search of the oily red-eyed stragglers who'd survived the UFO crash and were now infiltrating the city, a clandestine cabal of doctors, under orders from the army, strived to both save seized ET casualties and autopsy the dead ones. All the while, flying saucers were filling the skies above Varginha, seemingly in search of their captured comrades. Needless to say, it wasn't long before the, until very recently, always denying but perpetually UFO curious American government made their presence known behind the scenes. But we're not going to deal with that until the next episode. But first, let's recall the tragic case of 23-year-old military police officer Marco Eli Chirize, who, on the night of January 29, 1996, captured an alien barehanded on the streets of Varginha, thereby exposing himself to what was presumably a highly infectious agent or deadly toxin. Almost immediately following the incident, Marco fell ill with an inexplicable infection that would, within weeks, claim his life. Perhaps out of concern for what the government might do to keep them quiet, Marco was not completely forthcoming with his own family about what happened on that fateful night. In the last hours of his life, when it became increasingly clear that he likely wouldn't survive his hellish ordeal, Marco confessed to ICU cardiologist Dr. Cesdrio Lincoln Furtado exactly what had happened and how he believed it was the fact that he touched this alien with his bare hands that was now responsible for his perplexing condition. There is no way that Dr. Furtado could not have known what the dying officer was talking about. Tales of UFO crashes and alien interlopers had become the talk of the town, and newspapers, local TV, and even Brazil's most popular national program, Fantástico, which had broadcast for 2 hours every Sunday night on Rede Globo network since 1973, and was, I guess, sort of the Brazilian equivalent of early 80s American shows like That's Incredible and Real People.
Oh, nice.
You know, slice of public interest stuff, but weird stuff too. Had within 2 weeks' time already aired 3 stories on the Varginha incident. Besides being aware of the case, Dr. Furtado would have known that there was no reason for a young, well-respected police officer to lie to him on what would very likely be, and tragically was, his deathbed. Soon after Marco's death, the official cover-up began. Though his entire family and some anonymous colleagues confirmed that he had been working that night, his name was stricken from the official duty roster. It wouldn't be until famed alien implant remover and abduction specialist Dr. Roger K. Lear traveled to Varginha with Brazilian ufologist Cynthia Luce to do his own investigations that the Chirize family had a chance to tell their side of the story to a wider world. A story that was published in Dr. Lear's 2005 book about the Varginha events, UFO Crash in Brazil, a genuine UFO crash with surviving ETs, a thorough investigation, which is a fucking mouthful of a title.
That's a long
and a lot of repetitive words, which makes me think there wasn't so much an editor on this book as self-publishing desire. Maybe not. Maybe that just you can write UFO Crash 6 times in a title and that's okay.
I mean, you're getting the point across. The reader is going to know what you're talking about.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
what crashed? A UFO where? Brazil. ET's there.
Book titles ahoy, good sir.
Yes, indeed. Marco's wife, Valeria, told Dr. Lear that the hospital had withheld her husband's death report, then attempted to charge her an exorbitant amount of money for it, finally sending it months later with pages clearly missing. Shady.
That's weird.
Meanwhile, Marco's sister, Marta, is to this day attempting to secure the legal right to exhume her brother's body, likely long gone, to perform an autopsy that should have taken place decades ago. But long before Lear arrived, local investigators made the scene, and while they were trying to suss out the facts in this case, a whole entourage of carcasses and extraterrestrial survivors were being carted from the ASA Army base to various medical facilities and back via a military convoy right under their noses. Even though numerous witnesses claimed to have had their vehicles stopped by the police to permit the convoy to speed past. So lots of witnesses of the convoy going back and forth. The investigators are there. The two didn't meet. And if they had, probably nothing would have come of it anyway. The military said, fuck off. And they would have been like, how hard? And left.
And then they would have pulled their guns and been like, this hard.
That's it. Yeah, done.
Yeah.
According to James Fox's 2022 documentary about the events in Varginha, the often mentioned in the saga Moment of Contact, the morning of January 22nd, 1996, less than 48 hours after arguably the craziest day in the annals of ufological lore, an unnamed military man known as Officer X, while waiting in a queue to collect his pay, claimed to see what was tantamount to a naval takeover of the Asa Army base. First, a helicopter landed in the middle of a polo field, then a fleet of naval trucks arrived, parking outside of the infirmary. The witness claimed that he watched as one soldier lowered a ramp while another used a dolly to roll what appeared to be a small, riveted metal casket into the back of the truck before he and his cohorts were ushered away from the scene by their superiors. As bizarre as this brief naval takeover of the base may have been, it got even weirder when the unidentified officer admitted that his commanding general told him that he'd heard rumors that there had been a cloak and dagger mission into Varginha to pick up what he referred to as, quote-unquote, some creature.
Oh, that's going to get some speculation going.
There it is.
Especially after all the UFO talk.
That's going to stir the pot.
Yeah, that's definitely not going to calm down the situation.
I mean, you're a fucking general, okay.
You're like, oh, man, some creature, dude.
Some creature which had been delivered to the base the night before. The general added that he was being harangued by members of the press who wanted access to the base and the enigmatic entity. Officer X claimed that, quote, my squadron was directly involved with the mission because they transported it, so I avoided talking. Soon after, the drivers who went to Varginha were ordered into the commander's office, and we never saw them again. He also noted that a fellow officer, Captain Edison Ramirez, a man beloved by all who knew him, also vanished without saying goodbye to any of his close friends, which was completely out of character for him. The anonymous veteran summed up this series of odd events by declaring that, quote, it was really weird, really strange.
Military X.
Little understatement, yeah.
Yes, now...
No, this is not Military X.
Oh, sorry.
That is another whistleblower we'll be dealing with soon.
Oh, okay.
Do not confuse the two.
Oh, okay, all right.
Officer X, I mean, James Fox maybe isn't the most original in his pseudonyms for, hidden eyewitnesses. I mean, everything's X, which makes sense. That's unknown.
Yeah.
Officer X, Military X, Army Boy X. I made up the last one.
Podcaster X.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, everyone, who's going to know that bald fat guy with a beard when he's silhouetted with his voice vaguely distorted?
Well, spoiler alerts, Military X, he makes the appearance in the documentary. Very well hidden. Mm-hmm. Very well hidden.
Like they did unlike other documentaries we've talked about, yes.
The same documentary where the affluent couple or whatever, they're like,
well seen, yeah.
We don't want to be seen. And you're like, who's the white-haired guy? There's a wife and his two daughters. Oh, that's that dude.
I guess
Nice.
The Military X was probably, we'll be getting him in a minute,
yeah.
was more aware of like, do not fucking film me in any way, shape, or form.
And
like part of my forearm, and that's it.
Use some lighting to cover me.
Yeah.
There you go.
But anyway, amazingly, Fox also managed to secure an interview, we're on to it right now, in an isolated motel room with one of the drivers of that military convoy. Though eager to tell a story, the man feared for his life and was therefore very reluctant to converse. But he finally conceded to do so after being promised that no one would see his face or know his name and that his voice would be altered on the video. He would be referred to in the documentary only as Military X, not to be confused with Officer X, the guy standing in line for his paycheck who saw the naval invasion and the metal casket.
That's why I got confused, because that was Officer X. Okay.
Yes.
Now we're on
to the guy involved in the actual convoy.
All right.
We will not be hearing from Officer X again.
All right.
If we see an X in the future, because sometimes I got lazy and just wrote X, it's only Military X.
So it's X Military X. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Straight edge all the way.
There's a firestorm to purify. All right.
So here we are, Military X. And he claimed to have been one of the officers assigned to the convoy that transported the living and dead alien specimens back into town for further medical procedures. According to the understandably anxious whistleblower, he was on base when, between 9 and 9:30 a.m., he and a group of other officers were summoned to the commander's office, a man who just happened to be Lieutenant Colonel Olympio Wanderley, back in black.
Olympio. I love it.
The officer who was in charge during the initial joint effort between the Army and the Fire Brigade to secure an alien in the Jardim and Deer district. You'll remember that from part 2, I believe. Wanderley told the assembled group to prepare some trucks for a mission, but oddly he refused to offer any specifics as to what said mission was, save for the fact that 3 military, or 4 depending on your source, trucks, each equipped with 2 drivers, would be following an unmarked civilian combi, which I believe is a kind of car, it's spelled with a K, combi, into Virginia. They were instructed to follow the vehicle and to stop when it stopped and to simply stay put once within the city to await further orders. Military X claimed that all participants in the convoy, including himself, were members of the secretive and, according to some, actively dangerous and violently repressive Army Secret Service known as the S2. We've talked about them in earlier episodes. As to why it would take 3 trucks to move one tiny corpse, the answer, according to numerous researchers, is that military intelligence did not want the drivers in the convoy to know which one was actually carrying the precious cargo. As to why they did not trust their own Secret Service officers with this info is a topic that merits further consideration.
So it's like a weird shell game?
I guess.
Like, you don't know which one it is.
Are you driving the alien? You driving the tacos?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, do you have the booze or do you have the alien?
I know.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe it's just a way that that driver can't, like, no one, I guess we'll know.
Or maybe they were worried that there'd be like some sting operation, like another country might want to swoop in and they wouldn't know which truck to get.
Oh, yeah, dude. When Canada shows up and they'll, like, give us the aliens.
Oh, my God. They're all the time interfering with fuckers.
Dude.
Canada, mind your own for once. Jeez.
What up, Canada?
Jeez Louise. The trucks first went to the gated courtyard behind Regional General Hospital, which is surprising considering their track record for refusing to care for non-human patients.
Yeah, it's true.
Always saying
the last place you want to bring them is there.
Once there, one of the emphatically unpleasant-smelling alien carcasses was deposited into a large, zippered body bag, and a pair of presumably gloved soldiers hefted it into a box and carried it inside. The section of the hospital where the X-ray machines were located had been closed off to the public. The only ones allowed in the corridor were S2 soldiers and the necessary doctors and nurses. In another coup, Fox managed to secure an interview with the radiologist involved in the case, a man who was finally compelled to come forward and tell his story, again under conditions of anonymity. He claimed that he was working on the day the Army trucks pulled up to Regional General, that they were accompanied by a Jeep and 8 to 10 police cars, and loads of personnel who effectively sealed off a section of the hospital. The radiologist was led into an X-ray room accompanied by the 2 soldiers lugging the box with the reeking body bag inside of it. They deposited the fetid bag on the X-ray table, and a uniformed official who did not identify himself told the doctor to X-ray the bag without opening it.
Oh, nothing like a stinky bag to X-ray.
With like cops everywhere, so you know it's like officially sanctioned, but it still feels shady as shit.
Yeah, it's weird.
Intrigued, perhaps indignant, and almost certainly a little afraid, the radiologist complied with the military orders and took several radiographs of the bag and its hidden contents. They specifically requested images of the skull, cervical spine, thorax, abdomen, pelvis, arms, and legs. The military men stood silently with the unnerved doctor eyeing him warily as he snapped the X-rays. When the doctor went to check the results of the X-rays to make sure they came out correctly and didn't need to be repeated, the men steadfastly refused to let them be seen. As soon as he was done, the head official approached the doctor and simply said, quote, "Your work is done. Don't comment on what you saw or what you did." Boom.
All right. Well, those are some orders.
After that, the malodorous body bag was whisked away and the convoy left, but the stench of whatever was rotting in the bag lingered. And it will come as no surprise to anyone who has been following this case that the smell was a foul combination of rotten eggs and ammonia. The odor proved to be so offensive that for the rest of the day, that section of the hospital remained closed to patients and staff. The anonymous radiologist even added that much like Luisa da Silva before him had complained, quote, "The smell impregnated my nose and respiratory system for 3 or 4 days. Ew.
Oh, that's gross.
Big ew.
Yeah.
Again, we are forced to wonder if that scent is an indicator that the creature's presumably biological defense mechanism has been deployed, whether intentionally or not, resulting in the sticky, oily residue that was said to coat their bodies, particularly during times of stress, and may well contain unknown toxins, bacteria, or a virus that is lethally dangerous to human beings and perhaps other organic life forms, as we will soon discuss. And in that, I mean, next episode, some animals are going to bite it.
Oh, the animals get in contact with the little tiny aliens,
I'm not sure it's the same method or food or what, but some animals are going to bite it.
All right.
According to additional eyewitness reports, including nurses, doctors, civilians, and supposedly disgruntled soldiers, the convoy of military trucks left Regional General and made their way to Humanitas Hospital, where the carcass of one of the beings was allegedly being necropsied by a famed pathologist from Universidad de Campinas, or the University of Campinas, I'm assuming, also known as Unicamp, all caps.
Nice, cool.
The Unicamp campus. Dr. Fortunato Badan Palhares, who, in deference to his respected status, was one of the coroners tagged to perform the autopsy on notorious Nazi physician and all-around fuckface Jose Rudolf Mengele, whose acts were so horrific he was dubbed the Angel of Death.
Mengele's involved with this?
Well, this is the same coroner that was one of the guys that performed the autopsy when they disinterred Mengele's corpse.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So he was a big deal in Brazil, is basically what that is trying to drive home. In performing the alleged alien autopsies, Dr. Palhares was allegedly being assisted by one Dr. Coradin Nesby. Though Dr. Palhares would vehemently deny any connection to the Varginha case, claiming, quote, "I don't know where this idea came from," there would be many who would come forward and swore he was actively engaged in examining the alien carcasses. In terms of who else was on the scene, another eyewitness claimed that he spied a lieutenant from S2 who arrived in a white-brown Fusca-type Volkswagen. Trying not to draw attention to himself, he was out of uniform and parked down the street at the Paes Mendonça supermarket. Again, I apologize, my Portuguese blows. It was his hope to sneak into Humanitas Hospital unnoticed, but too many strange things had been happening in Varginha, and folks had their eyes peeled for anything unusual. Anything. At that same time, according to ufologist John Carpenter, a pair of American doctors using assumed names checked into a motel close to Regional Hospital, carrying with them what witnesses identified as quote-unquote strange equipment.
Huh, okay. And they're gonna stick the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, it's me, Joseph Araya.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like,
Jose.
All right there, Mr. Anglo John Smith.
Yeah,
Clearly
exactly.
know that you're not.
What a fucking pile of strange equipment, which is not going to turn out to be so strange in a second, I think.
No, but I mean, if you're an American doctor carrying equipment around, people are going to be like, what the fuck are these Americans here carrying?
Well, especially when, like, everyone's alien crazy.
Well, yeah.
Like, heated with
everybody's
alien crazy.
looking. I mean, even this guy trying to be like, I'm going to park down here at the mini mart and I'm going to fucking make my way over here. Like,
yeah, I'm just going to look around surreptitiously. And I mean, it's just weird that someone who happened to know him was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. What
Bill,
are you doing?
You
Yeah.
know?
Like, and where's your uniform? And he's like, what do you
Nothing.
mean, good sir? How
Visiting
dare
a
you?
friend, it's a day off, relax.
This is actually like a weird cover up. Like, it's kind of like no one's doing a good job of this.
No, it's the
Like-
worst, and it only gets worse.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, it gets worse.
All right. I have a couple of thoughts
All right,
on this.
So now we're with Americans with strange equipment.
All right, cool.
These same men were later seen at Humanitas Hospital with an array of camcorders and other presumptively medical gear. So maybe it's just medical equipment and cameras. Who knows?
Okay.
They were spotted the third time at the, and I'm going to massacre this, Churrascaria Gaucha restaurant. Who was spying on them or how this individual came to understand that these American doctors were using false names is anyone's guess. But perhaps Carpenter was also the source of some of the info, as he later stated. Americans were known to have checked into a hotel with fake names who were apparently doctors. But then he added, I know nothing about any equipment or their presence at the hospital. So I guess he's just reporting what locals have said.
Right. Okay.
Once the Army convoy, including whistleblower Military X, arrived at Humanitas on January 22nd, the soldiers were ordered to back up to the rear gate, at which point only the ranking S2 officers were allowed to carry the metal caskets into the hospital itself. Those who were stationed outside claimed that they remained there for hours, not leaving until 6 p.m. that evening. But those that were dying from heat exhaustion and boredom in the hot summer sun were the lucky ones. Military X was one of the officers tasked with transporting the steel coffins inside, and what he saw there would haunt him for the rest of his days. According to his interview with Fox, the officer stepped into a private room where he saw a stainless steel table with a box on top of it. Inside the box, he saw a humanoid creature whose upper half was partially covered, revealing only its lower extremities. Military X noticed the sharp claws on its V-shaped two-toed feet and the dark, oily skin on its short legs. It was the sight of its feet that confirmed for Military X that, despite official denials to come, what was in the box was not a human being, deformed or otherwise. It was then that the soldier was told to take off his jacket and remove any recording devices he may have on him. Like a Walkman, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, what do you got?
96, like one of those little mini tape recorders you
Yeah.
use
He's
for
like-
like taking fucking notes.
Hold on.
Like Colonel Holt used in fucking Rendlesham or something.
Click. talk into my pocket. Like, you're going to totally hear that.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. But, hey, fuck it.
I mean, you got to, be thorough, I guess.
He did as he was told, and at that moment, X noticed a uniformed man carrying a bulky and evidently state-sanctioned camcorder strapped to his shoulder. Though he wasn't filming, there can be little doubt that there is extant video footage of alien beings in some government archive, whether it's Brazilian or American or both, who knows. Another anonymous witness, perhaps one who was in the same room, though that's hard to confirm, who was featured on the Sci-Fi Channel documentary Brazilian UFO Crash: The Truth, claimed to have seen a soldier filming a procedure being performed on an alien body. Another unnamed military observer claimed that, likely before the arrival of X, one of the doctors on hand, used forceps to pull out the dead thing's long black tongue from its tiny mouth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when he released it, the tongue snapped back into its mouth like a rubber band, which is comically like Chuck Jones, but also kind of horrible and sad.
Slapsticky.
Yeah.
Bink.
Like you'd have to do it 3 or 4 times. Like, come on.
Come on, guys. Lighten up.
I mean, it's horrible. I'm sorry it's dead, but come on.
That's okay. Interesting.
Yeah, most definitely. There was also the curious case of Mrs. Teresa Starace de Magalhães Teixeira, oh Jesus Christ, what a name, of Campinas, who told a UFO researcher that her husband, Adalberto, who was in Humanitas Hospital for an operation, claimed to have seen an actual dead alien being wheeled out of the morgue on a gurney.
Do they just willy-nilly wheeling these things around?
So you would think,
it's weird.
Maybe Adalberto just happened to be like wheeling around going, fuck this gallbladder, I gotta piss, and like went down the wrong hallway. Lock, no one allowed, fuck you. You can just tell he's an old prick. You just know it. But back to the tiny, anxiety-filled room where Military X found himself on January 22nd. As the doctors and soldiers bustled around, Military X claimed that he could sense a, quote, climate of tension, end quote, in the room.
You think?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And could tell by the faces around him that he wasn't the only one unnerved by the situation. He described the moment to Fox, quote, "Everyone was shocked, very shocked. I looked at it, then broke away because I got scared. I looked at it again. What is that? When I looked, my expression changed. I was in over my head in this situation."
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of stuck now.
Yeah.
Because now you're
balls deep.
You're officially like, well, that's a thing in my life I'm dealing with.
Yeah, you can't undo this.
Yeah.
You've seen the knees of the alien. No more can be done.
No turning
You're part
back.
of it now.
There's no turning back.
You can Military X your name up all you want. You're there.
Yeah.
You're in this fucker.
Oh, God.
I know. It's troublesome. It's very troublesome. It was then that another officer from the fire brigade noticed X staring at the curious carcass. His expression must have betrayed the shock and horror he was experiencing as his mind reeled at the implication of alien life, because it was then that the firefighter waved his fellow soldier away from the table, telling him to leave immediately.
Oh, boy.
Whether this command was intended to protect a valuable state secret or preserve the delicate psyche of a brother in arms is up for debate.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's the latter. Who knows?
No, it's probably like, don't fucking look at this thing.
Yeah, dude, you're about to lose it. You can see in someone's face when they're looking at something and they're about to fucking lose it. And you got to be like, nope. Just block the view, take them out of the room. Just be like, sit down, have some water, have some whiskey. This is not for you.
Yeah, down the hall.
This is not for you. Down the hall. This room.
Just go.
Yeah.
Just keep
no
going.
bueno. Either way, Military X exited the scene, and it wasn't long before the box containing the creature, or perhaps one of the decoy dummy boxes, was packed back into his truck, and he was ordered to make the drive back to ESA base. It sounded like I said Ace of Base, the great old band, but ESA, ESA base is what I meant to say.
Nice.
Other sources claim that another alien that had been under restraint at Humanitas for approximately 30 hours was transported by one of the other trucks, or perhaps a different convoy separate from Military X's altogether, perhaps a fire or a military one, who the fuck knows, which delivered its deadly alien cargo to Unicamp, which, of course, we established is the university at Campinas, where the esteemed Dr. Palhares just happened to be a professor. Though, as mentioned, Palhares denied any involvement in the case, it's interesting to note that observers saw staff from the university collecting soil and vegetation samples in the Jardim and Deer Park exactly where the ETs were allegedly captured.
Oh.
So that's intriguing.
It is intriguing.
Because that reminds me, I'm so sorry.
For other
other
cloak and dagger bullshit, that's the one that you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing.
You get in the dirt.
Yeah.
Like the great old UFO investigator, like saying, I'm very sorry I forgot his name, but the guy who dug up the Delphos ring at Kansas, back in the day, and was like the world's ufological expert on soil samples.
Right.
And how it was water resistant and this and that. I apologize again to the ufologist if they're out there happen to be listening. But anyway, the work was great, and that reminds me, like, that's the down and dirty work you got to do. You have to go to the scene. You have to get the fucking samples. That's the evidence you have.
Right.
And so if the university's doing that while everyone else is collecting corpses or trying to help survivors by giving them fruits and beverages or whatever the fuck they were attempting to do, we were talking about last pod, it just adds some flavor to the story, whether or not it really is that compelling. It could have just been kids on a fucking field trip, but... do colleges take field trips? I'm sure they do. If you're
they have
like a naturalist or a biologist or a archaeological student, you got to go on the field.
You definitely go have a little field trip with your class.
All right. Okay. So anyway, that's what could be going on. But let's get back to the saga of Military X. I know this jumps around more than Pulp Fiction, but it's hard to tell the story any other way.
All right.
Upon his return to Asa Base, I'm just going to keep laughing when I say that.
I saw the sign.
And it opened. All right. And after the cargo was secured, Military X was summoned into an office of an officer that he did not know. Once inside the office, X could see he was surrounded by an array of superior officers whose eyes seemed to bore right through him. One of the military men that he couldn't identify looked him straight in the eyes and asked him what it was that he saw. X, perhaps sensing that he was now treading on dangerous ground, replied that he believed he had seen a man who had burned alive. Surprisingly, the interrogating officer flatly responded, "No, that's not what you saw."
Oh, you do.
He's trying. He's showing you. He's putting the effort. He's putting the good effort in.
You know what he did? X is going to give it to you.
Yeah, X is going to give it to you.
Exactly.
There's no choice on that.
Why couldn't this? R.I.P. DMX.
Yeah, I know. Everything breaks your heart.
Oh, man, what a bummer. All right.
So, concerned about what would come next, X remained silent, and the unnamed officer leaned in, adding, "What I saw was supernatural."
Oh, now during the documentary when he says this, that caught me.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not like extraterrestrial aliens, UFOs, ETs. No, they used the term supernatural. So
which is a broad spectrum term.
It is.
And it really implies, at least the way Americans interpret it, it implies a much bigger range of possibilities than simply extraterrestrial.
Yeah, you're not. You might not be dealing with something off planet. Now, guaranteed, not guaranteed.
That doesn't mean that's how he meant it.
Yeah, no. Granted, what I meant to say. Granted that when he says this, he could have just used the word supernatural
because it is technically supernatural. It is beyond the pale of the natural,
under supernatural phenomenon.
Supernatural and paranormal are technically your favorite thing in the world.
Exactly.
The umbrellas that cover cryptozoology, ufology, the occult, whatever fucking else you want to throw under it. That is like, considered a little bit shady by mainstream academia. But the way we use it in a modern context, the way, American paranormal investigators use it, paranormal and supernatural tend to be reserved for ghosts, occult practices.
Right. Demons.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it might just be a word he's using in the right context, but in a different way than we're used to. Or he could be implying that they're the result of a magic ritual and that one of Crowley's descendants was involved.
The Fae.
Oh, the Fae. Oh, goblins.
Goblins.
Oh, I didn't even think about goblins.
Stinky dead goblins.
Oh, you can't really. I guess you can't take the Fae off the table either.
You can't.
They're right there with the devil. They're a little more irascible.
Especially when there's a weird, like, fucking cigar-shaped ship.
Yeah.
Are we dealing with aliens or are we dealing with some Fae?
There's definitely been, like, some Fae-type aliens.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's been quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, lots and lots.
Yeah. So, Crash Fae. Solved.
Okay. Crash the Fae.
There you go.
Why does it sound like an album?
Crash the Fae.
Like a 90s album that would have been on 120 minutes?
Yeah, I'm at Penfield.
Here's the new one from Crash the Fae.
Here's a bunch of shit you don't need to know about. Enjoy. That's why this fucking show's so long.
Oh, my God.
Because I keep talking.
And then the Pixies.
Exactly. Jack Black there. Or fucking not Jack Black. Frank Black. There you go. Continuing.
All good. With this admission came the admonishment that what he had seen and participated in was top secret, and that X was never to speak of the incident again, lest he be, quote unquote, severely punished.
Which I guess you don't.
What you expect.
Yeah, you don't want to chance that. You're just like, all right, cool.
You don't fuck around.
This is not a write-up. This is not like a written warning. No, this is like a
wrist slap.
Punishment.
This is like, I know what you saw. You know what you saw. You can lie about it, but guess what? We're not even going to let you have that covered.
Yeah,
We're gonna tell you,
supernatural.
this shit's supernatural. Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
There you go.
Also, as a reminder, for folks that have been listening to this podcast, they already know it. The military in Brazil had just come off a really brutal regime, a military coup where fuckers disappeared when they were confrontational or protested the government.
They had a pretty big mean streak.
So even
I understand
that policy had technically changed. If you grew up in that world, you're like, yeah, and you're already a part of the military and part of the hierarchy, and you're surrounded by like generals and colonels or who the fuck knows what, some of whom you know, some of whom you don't know. And they're telling you something supernatural happened and you will be severely punished. And who knows how heavy the gravelly cigar chomping voice was that said it. It was probably something he took to heart. And obviously did, because he was terrified quarter of a century later when he almost didn't get interviewed by Fox and insisted on anonymity.
Yeah, you're just better off not even like playing with that fucking shit. Just leave.
No, I agree. At that point, you got family, friends, your own life to think about.
Yeah.
Nope. While all of the surreptitious scurrying back and forth was going on behind the scenes, the state of Minas Gerais in general, and Varginha in particular, had become the epicenter of one of the largest UFO flaps on record. It was a wave that recorded everything from close-up sightings of huge unidentified aircraft to UFO landings to actual contact with ufonauts. There's so many stories that may or may not be related to this that were happening at this time. It was like a hotbed of madness. It seemed as if the incomprehensible thin, yet all but impenetrable veil between realities had been torn asunder, and the region had suddenly become a paranormal hotbed, not unlike Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and the surrounding areas during the 1960s.
Oh, are we going back to the Mothman?
We always do.
All right.
I mean, it's comparable.
Okay.
This is every bit as fascinating, I think, as the Mothman Odyssey, but perhaps not quite as batshit crazy.
Right.
But fairly close.
Okay, cool.
But whether these incidents were the result of interdimensional trespassers or simply fellow members of the galaxy having the equivalent of a terrible car crash at the side of the road in a foreign country, simply hoping for help from some kind strangers, what we know is that something incredible took place in Varginha in the mid-90s. Something that had the potential to change humanity forever. Perhaps for the better, perhaps not, but as happens time and time again when humanity is confronted with an earth-shattering moment of celestial truth, the powers that be, hoping to maintain the status quo and of course their own influence, rush in to protect the oil barons and the religious leaders and anyone else that might be threatened by the revelation that we are not alone in the cosmos and that the human race is just one small part of an intergalactic family and not the idiotically egotistical idea that we are collectively God's greatest single creation living alone and peerless in the center of a vast and intellectually and organically empty universe. And though these forces of denial would move swiftly, their methods might be charitably described as, at best, dubious, and at worst, utterly asinine. But we'll get to that shit in what I promise will be our last segment in the incredible saga of the Varginha incident.
The Varginha incident part 4. Convoys and corpses.
It's just about the trucking.
I gotta
this
say,
week.
your last paragraph there, that felt personal.
Was it a little?
Like you were getting it out. You were like
did.
the oil barons and the upper crust and the
99.
Yeah, you were just
versus 1.
You were just like God's greatest single creation, living alone and peerless in the center of the vast intellectually or orgasmic empty universe. I appreciate. I like that you put a little bit
Metal
of yourself
lyrics.
in there. No, you put a little bit of yourself in there.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, at least the mass of the world agrees that we are not the center of the universe anymore.
Totally.
So that's a plus.
Right.
So maybe that was a dig at 400 years ago. It probably didn't need to be made.
I mean, I think we can let that grudge go.
But that having been said, I have no problem with religions or people that believe in God or whatever they want to do. I guess I have some problems with religions, but belief in a higher power, I'm totally down with. But this whole egocentric idea that we are the center of everything, that God created human beings, we're imbued with his, which is again a heavy-handed thing that I don't agree with, attributes and skills and intellect, and only we're allowed to go to heaven, and we're the only ones that can exist, and anything else that might be smart or challenge anything, or even a fucking primate, a monkey that uses a tool might be a fucking challenge to God. It's just asinine to me.
It's kind of like what they told Marco's mother. They're like, if we came forward with this, everything would fall apart. No one would believe in God. Our society as we know it would just crumble crumble and there'd be madness in the streets and chaos abound. And
I am convinced that some of these powers, especially in like decades past, the middle of the 20th century, maybe even earlier, who knows if there were UFO crashes even before Aztec or whatever the earliest ones are supposed to be. They were working to preserve the quote-unquote American or the free democratic world's status quo with noble intentions. Like, we can't let this fucking enterprise fall apart. People will lose their minds. We saw what the handful of people that believed Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, that believed that was an actual newscast, what they did.
Right.
They went out with guns and they shot water towers thinking they were alien platforms. And they, I think there might have even been a suicide or two. I don't know if that's apocryphal or not.
What a time to be alive. Like,
Yeah,
let's go
the
shoot
30s.
water towers.
And
Fuck
the 30s aren't that far ago, really,
No.
historically speaking,
No,
so
but I
so
think,
back in the day, I can see them really I'll finish this point quick, really striving hard to make sure people didn't panic, that religious institutions, which were like basically the spine of communities back then, didn't instantly fold overnight by revelations that what they've been taught over and over again weren't true, and boom, those edifices crumble, or at least people's faith in them crumbles, which is, I suppose, even more dangerous. And then, of course, the big argument, the one that Stephen Greer makes now and many others, Dr. Stephen Greer, excuse me, is that that the use of the admitting of this technology implies that it could be used, and the use of it would create energy sources that would absolutely just knock the dick off of the oil conglomerates. So in the sense that once upon a time, I think these secrets were kept to protect us, I think there might be some truth in that. Okay. At this point now, I really do think it's a full-on power grab.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's that. I don't think that's something that we can just put out there and just be like, yeah, no, it's cool. Everyone join in. Big kumbaya. People are going to clearly be like, wait. Tap this motherfucker down.
Well, especially the people that have the most to lose.
Exactly.
They're not looking for an egalitarian, equalized society where everyone's like, oh yeah, man, no, we all are benefiting. They're like, they have that like very conservative mindset, and you're allowed to have any mindset you want, but like, I earn it, I keep it, fuck you, my property, I shoot you if you're on it, fuck you, I'm afraid of the different things, fuck you, don't change because it's tradition, fuck you.
Well, also too, you're dealing with an alien species. So I think that's the bigger thing is not so much with the societal oil companies and the land barons and OPEC and shit like that. It's like we are literally putting everything that we know on its fucking head. Like, guess what, fuckers? We ain't the only ones here. Oh, by the way, they crashed in Varginha, and good luck. So that just kind of plays into the whole bigger role. Whereas what's funny, because now the government's like, oh yeah, no, there's aircraft that we don't understand the physics of how they work, and they just happen to show up,
and we don't know where they're from.
And look what happened. That announcement came and went. It did. It literally didn't matter.
It was like a fart in the wind.
It was like
you couldn't even smell it after a second.
The second episode that we ever did was like, holy shit, UFOs are here. This is disclosure. And now it's like, who fucking cares? No one cares.
Which
honestly.
just goes to tell you what people.
I'm more bummed that Modern Warfare 2, the season got pushed back to February 15th. No, and then they always have UFO shit. And I'm like, it's probably nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how jaded I am about it.
Well, it's like I say, when the folks have been talking about the slow disclosure for forever now, the idea that they're indoctrinating us through cinema, through television, to the belief in alien life.
This is one person. This is one person. This is Tom DeLonge with his To the Stars Academy, which I think is selling Angels in the Airways merch and falling apart.
Oh yeah, but no, he's not the only one that has said that.
Well, but
ufologists forever have said that they're introducing us to this idea. But if that's the case,
gotcha.
If that is the case, if since literally the flying saucer cinema craze of the 1950s, they have been slowly introducing the idea of A, aliens are real, and B, be afraid of them.
Right.
Then they have done an amazingly good job of it.
Yeah.
An amazingly good job. Even if they're only planting seeds, or like if they were technically in control, and I'm not as paranoid as to think this, but like Louis B. Mayer or some head of a studio, and we're like, why don't you greenlight this project? Just this, it'll probably be lucrative for you. No, saucers are a big thing. And they just fucking did. And then it just ended up, propagating itself because of its popularity. We are so used to it now that it became a nothing thing. Yeah. 60 Minutes covered it, and for like 10 minutes everyone was like, not thinking about COVID, not thinking about whatever other bullshit was around. They were just like, oh shit, the government says that there's UFOs and they're real.
Yeah.
Ufologists celebrated, but fucking before you pop the champagne,
y'all did.
That doesn't mean shit, really.
It like most things, it got in government and it stopped. Now there are people that have come out and talked more about it, but I mean, it's still the same story. Like,
but there hasn't been a constant feed of newly declassified images, or even the better images that allegedly exist of the ones that have already been declassified, like Go Fast and Gimbal and whatever. So I mean, I have no doubt that the government knows more than they're saying. We all know that.
Yeah.
I also have no doubt that the government no longer has the control like it had in Eisenhower's era, that it has been privatized incredibly, and that members of the government are working with the people that really are controlling it, and they are completely free of the Freedom of Information Act and everything else.
And what's really interesting is Varginha kind of fits in this weird area with that, where you're like, oh, something went down, and the government's there, and then they're trying to scramble to be like, we have to capture this creature. We have to, bring it to a hospital. Oh, wait, not that hospital, because they're not accepting non-human entities anymore. Another hospital. And that's where you get to convoying the corpses. But this whole time what we just covered, this whole convoying corpses part, this seems almost like it's scatterbrained. Like, they're not sure what they're doing.
100%.
Like, they're like, okay, so let's get them to the hospital so that we can, get X-rays and whatnot of all these different parts. But you're bringing it to a public hospital with just members of the public that work there.
Yeah.
And they're
not a military hospital,
exactly.
which you assume has to exist somewhere.
You would think you would do this a little bit more. You're literally like going to Auburn Memorial and just being like, yeah, we got an alien. Let's get some fucking pictures of it. And you got everybody in their
don't
brother.
talk about it, Nancy, or Bill, shut your mouth.
Everyone, their brothers, just walking around seeing this thing. Even military acts. I mean, he's happened to be in the right area. And
well, he was assigned to it, but yeah,
right.
But guy who was about to go to surgery, Adalberto.
There's other people and doctors, like, they're putting quite a spotlight on this, where it's kind of like, all right, is it heat of the moment and you're just doing what you got with the tools that you got?
Exactly. That's what I think it is.
Because if this is but then you had the misdirection of like the decoy boxes, which is another one that's so fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, if you thought that something was going to happen where you needed decoy boxes, why would you be doing this in a public hospital?
There are definitely paradoxes here.
It's so weird.
Things that do not make sense.
And it just doesn't seem like it's not put together very well, or like I said, they're just put in they're jammed up, and they're like, we got to do what we can do before we hand these over to the Americans, spoiler alerts, and be like, let's get the information we can can get off of these things.
Yeah, everything we can get.
Get them the hell out of here, and then we don't got to worry about it. But in the meantime, you are just creating a fucking frenzy.
Absolutely.
Of people seeing shit and just like, American doctors showing up with, I guess MRI equipment or whatever they had.
I don't know what constitutes strange equipment in 96.
Yeah. So for a cover up, it just seems like, and that's the thing is this isn't that long ago.
Right.
This is 96.
Yes.
I remember 96 very well.
Uh-huh.
So like, this kind of falls in that weird area of like, oh shit, something happened. It's going down. What do we do? And how do we tap it down without making it worse? And they kind of made it worse. Like, they kind of made it. I mean, just with the death of Marco, they made it.
100%.
It was made worse.
It was like, I don't remember which episode that I talked about it, like, but I'm going to repeat basically the same sentiment, and that is, it's very analogous to Roswell. Not just in the generic way of aliens and UFO crashes and all that. All that's valid, but not like that. How I think it's analogous to Roswell is that the American government was not really equipped to deal with the idea of extraterrestrial life in a downed craft, and a lot of people got involved, even though they had a hospital, at the Army base, I think, and place, they were definitely a little better equipped to deal with it, but they didn't know what the fuck was going on, and before you knew it, everybody in that small military town knew something was happening, and it was on, and it even got blasted in the headlines of newspapers before they clamped down on it. In that sense, that at that moment in time in American culture, the UFO enigma could have been revealed. Mm-hmm. And it came really close to fucking happening, like really close. Not because the government as a whole or the president or the top general said, let's disclose this, America and the world's ready for it, but because a regional director, a regional colonel or general or whoever's in charge of the base was like, fuck this, we got a UFO, let's tell everybody. I'm going to be fucking a star.
That's the best
I'm going to be a movie star. Let's do this.
Literally in the headlines.
Boom. And they're like, sir, you sure you want us to put this out there? Put that the fuck on the wire. It is on. UFO City, baby. I made my bed and I'm sleeping in it.
Shit's different, bitch. Let's go.
And then like a day later, it's like, no one's going to remember you. It was a fucking weather balloon. It's all lies.
And then they come in.
This is... the equivalent of that. I think the Brazilian government was not ready to deal with this. That you're right. It is a comedy of errors, but only because it's a bunch of ill-equipped people, probably brilliant and hardworking and industrious, that are doing their level fucking best to deal with something that is incomprehensible. So like, get it to a hospital, try to save it. I don't want it to die, but we still have to know what it is.
Give it fruit and water.
The agenda is part save lives. The agenda is part protect what could be great military secrets. Part of the agenda certainly was dictated behind the scenes by the United States government. And again, that we'll get into that deeper next episode. But a lot of what happened could have been the spark that, as I said in the last thing, this could have been the moment of celestial truth when it came out, literally celestial in terms of space.
Right.
And it probably came closer than we think. But it just got clamped on just a little too quick, a little too hard. And if you can't get a sample, and also you got to remember this. And this is, I know I've been more conspiratorial sounding than I usually am. And usually I'm not
which is kind of
super wacky.
Interesting.
But there is one thing I do not doubt, and this makes it even harder for the folks trying to explore, but of course to reveal these kinds of hidden truths. And that is when you're dealing with an enemy, in this case, a government, an institution that's trying to protect a secret, an enemy of the truth, as it were, who will kill you, they have a huge fucking advantage.
Yeah,
they will kill you and they can get away with it.
It's not really a level playing field.
No.
Like, you really can't.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's no like tete.
Yeah. Like I could shoot one of your guys and then you'll go to fucking prison and be a pariah. And why would you just shoot a random soldier? They don't deserve it. That's not even their fault.
You don't really have a way to like kind of combat this.
They're like, oh yeah, we'll take you to a desert. We'll dot your head with bullets.
Yeah.
We'll double tap you, triple tap you. We'll leave you out there for scorpions to shit on and nobody cares and we're not busted because we're fucking in power.
Scorpion shit's the worst.
The worst. That's the worst way to desecrate a corpse.
Yeah, it is. Jesus, yeah. All right, man. Well, there it is. The Varginha Incident Part 4. Convoys and Corpses. Thank you all so very much for joining us. Come back next week. Part 5.
Yeah.
The Reckoning.
The probable last part.
The
maybe last part.
It will be I think we can definitely get her at 5. There's definitely a couple of things coming up. Spoiler alerts I know about. I'm not going to say them, but they're pretty. Some of the explanations are ludicrous.
If you don't know, don't look for them.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
You'll definitely enjoy it. It's fun. But yeah, thank you all so very much for joining us. Robert, Patreon.
Yeah.
We offer.
We do.
To the people.
And we're so grateful for those that participate.
We are. And those that participate, we like to give thanks.
Yes, we do.
And Robert, we have some shout outs to do here, good sir. I sent them to you in an email, and I have them in front of me at the moment, but I'm going to keep reading longer because I couldn't find the note, and I just found it.
Oh, good.
Here we go.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I am.
All right.
Beginning with Aiden Radarmal.
Yeah, thank you, Aiden.
Jamie King.
What up, Jamie?
Derek Matthews.
Oh, yeah, Derek.
Timothy Rickett.
Hell yeah, Mr. Rickett.
Shiskari.
I couldn't figure out how to, is it Shaz?
Or it could be Shaskari.
Shaz Carl?
Oh, is that an L? Shit, I thought it was an I. I need reading glasses. All right, let me do it again.
Yeah,
okay.
Shaz
Carl.
Shaz Carl?
Shiskarial. No. All right. Shaz Carl?
Are you from like Aladdin or something? Like, are you the genie from Aladdin?
I'm trying to figure out how to say her name right. I'm doing my best.
Try it again.
Shaz Carl.
Can you say it normally without having to have a shazkar?
Oh, fuck.
Can we not be like fucking Simba?
All right, let me white bread this up for you. Shaz Carl.
You can just talk normal.
Did that do it for you?
You can really is Shaz Carl.
They give you a little wasp woody.
Yeah, you gave me a wasp woody. Thanks. Thank you, Shaz Carl, for your continued monthly support.
And you are welcome for $1,500 worth of name shouts.
Exactly. We got Mikey, Robert.
We got Mikey.
Yeah, rounding it out. We got Travis Neal.
Look at you taking over. Are you afraid I would mispronounce them? What the fuck?
I wasn't sure.
You just weren't even going to give me a chance, were you?
It's Mikey. Ooh, Mr. Mikey. Give it to Mikey. Ooh, we got Travis Neal. Ooh, Mr. Neal.
Okay, now you're just hurting my feelings. That's just a dick
Listen,
move.
I wanted to get the names out there. I wanted to thank the people. Because every month, Robert, at patreon.com.
It helps so much. You have no idea.
/Cryptonaut podcast.
You keep this ship afloat.
The $1 and the $5. The $1 is the one bonus audio and the shout out and the access to the Discord. The $5 is the no more than 4, sometimes 5, depending on how many Sundays are in the month.
And there could be many.
Yeah. So you could be dealing with 4 or 5
17
episodes.
Sometimes. I don't know how many Sundays in a month.
So yeah, sign up over there again, patreon.com/Cryptonaut podcast. As we always mention, that gets you access to the Discord. There's a ton of new Discord members too.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad people are signing up. That place is so fun.
It's so fun, yeah.
It really is so fun.
And I mean, obviously, by the time this comes out, it will have already happened.
Yeah, the Mirror
But
Campfire.
we have a Mirror Campfire coming
Which
up.
for us is in 2 days, and so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, no, it's super dope, super dope. I'm really excited about that. So be sure to check that out all over there. We got the merch at thehellerspace.com.
T-shirts, cups,
Cryptonaut
whatever
merch.
the fuck you want.
Cryptonautmerch.com is the other one. Those are linked in the description of this podcast. Get yourself some clothes. We got some new merch coming out at some point when I decide to contact our rep and get that rolling.
Yeah.
And I've not decided yet.
No.
But we'll wait.
You're a man of indecisiveness.
We'll see.
It's okay.
We'll see what happens.
I'm willing to wait until you're ready.
I actually have an idea for a T-shirt that I'm going to run by you and Christopher.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm just
What
gonna.
was that pause about? Did you forget who you podcast with?
Well, no, because actually it's through one of the companies that we use. I got to have them like design it and do it for me.
Okay.
Because we get offered like free designs and shit. And I'm
Sure.
like, oh, this is actually an easy but kind of fun design. It's a little bit of an H.P. Lovecraft throwback, so we'll see. That should be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear about it.
We'll do that. And the social medias, Robert.
Oh, fuck. They're still there.
Oh, they're still happening.
The Instas, the Twitters. I'm trying to be you now. The LinkedIn's, the Friendsters, the MySpace. We got it all.
Instas, Twitters, and Facebooks.
Okay,
man.
I was wrong. We didn't have all of it.
No, you were there. You got it. You got it. We don't have a TikTok.
Not yet.
I have a TikTok, but I don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just kind of like hang out on Instagram and that's it. But the DMs are open.
Right on.
Get a hold of me. Chris is there, Rob's there, everyone's there. Get a hold of us.
Yeah, and
there.
like say, I'll get back to you eventually. Don't expect it to be quickly.
No, and as I tell everyone, and as I mentioned, I will mention again, you will get an essay.
Sometimes you will.
An essay.
I mean,
because you have the luxury of doing Instagram from your computer.
Oh yeah, I don't do that shit with my thumbs.
Type that shit, dude. Oh my god.
Would never do that.
No, not good.
But if I'm sitting at the keyboard, I will fucking write. That's what I will do. As is evidenced by the fact that we're going into the fucking part 5 of Varginha. Good Lord.
Oh man!
I mean, I was telling Mark this. This thing could have been longer. Like Mark gives me a cutoff of about 5 pages, as I mentioned before. Half joking.
6 pages.
All right, 6 pages. 5.5 pages, whatever.
6 full pages.
6 full pages
is generally the limit for the pod.
And I'm writing, and I'm like, all right, we can go 7. We can go 7 because it's the end. We're ending this fucking ultimate saga of Varginha. It's great. And I look down, it's like 8. And I look down, it's like fucking 12. And I'm not finished yet. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I have to go in and look him in the eye and tell him this is not the last part, which I did right before we potted, and I felt disgraced.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this during the week, and I was like, so what do you think, man? Part 4? And you were like, oh, bro, totally, bro. Part 4. I'm like, oh, I'll see you at 6 o'clock. Oh, I'm going to see you at 6 o'clock. Totally. Hey, buddy, 6:30. I'm like, oh,
we might as well reschedule the pod for 6:30.
I know
what
when you say 6:30, I know what you're doing. You're editing pages down because you went over the 6, you son of a bitch.
It's true.
He's a man that can't be contained.
It's big. Sometimes the story's bigger than me, and I just have to follow it.
Dude, hey.
Varginha is one of those cases.
There it is. We did it. We got it. Part 4 is done. Thank you all for joining us. Come back next week for part 5.
Yeah, really the final, though.
The conclusion.
For really. I don't
there.
care if I'm writing 28 pages. It's the end.
Oh, man.
We're here. If it's a 3-hour marathon, it's over.
We're going to wrap it up next week, folks. There you have it, and we'll be talking with you soon.
Goodbye, friends.
Goodbye.